Distinguished guests, participants from all countries across planet Earth, welcome to the Global Youth Network Summit on Climate Change and Health. This summit is being held by the Ashley Lashley Foundation in partnership with UNICEF and the Children's Environmental Rights Initiative. I am Ashley Lashley, your moderator for this historic Global Youth Network Summit on Climate Change and Health. Friends, the impact of climate change is certainly having adverse and devastating effects on many countries across planet Earth, particularly on small island developing states, for example, the Caribbean and Pacific Islands. The Hey campaign is a youth-led campaign on climate change and health and was officially launched in April 2020 by the Ashley Lashley Foundation in partnership with UNICEF Eastern Caribbean Area Office, and it was initiated from Barbados. This campaign aims to bring youth and children from around the world together in their diversity to advocate for shared values, promoting life and dignity rather than economic growth alone. Through We Are Hey, we wanted to show you what we mean by being a healthy and environmentally friendly youth and express our wishes and dreams for a better future. For me, it is extremely exciting to bring all of these issues by creating a forum where we as the world's youth and experts could come together to create and chart a pathway for the future of our planet. As we witness the impact of COVID-19, that to me of the Spanish flu and the bubonic plague, it is absolutely critical that we close the vulnerability gap and establish the necessary protective systems that will certainly save planet Earth from the damaging effects of these deadly and demonized diseases. More than ever, we must focus far more attention on strengthening our policies directives as it primarily relates to our country's infrastructural capacity to create and build healthier environments. As millennials, far more attention and resources must be given to the attainment and realization of all 17 Sustainable Development Goals. We are the chosen generation. There is an army of young people rising up to take action. Wherever and whenever conferences, summit meetings, and any similar activities of this nature, wherever they are held, the inclusion of persons with disabilities must be a paramount sustainable right as inscribed in the United Nations Charter on Persons with Disabilities. That is why we as organizers felt that it was absolutely critical that we create an enabling, embracing, and all-inclusive environment for those persons who are differently able in this summit and the Hey campaign. This summit is designed to examine all pertinent issues relating to climate change and health and will include 5 sessions entitled A Future for the World's Children, Children's Environmental Rights, Youth Voices on Climate Change and Health, Our Common Future Must Be More Inclusive, and COVID-19 and the Environment, What's Next? This global summit will premiere with a video entitled For Every Child There's a Healthier and Safer Future, and will also launch a global children and youth appeal on climate change and health. I am super excited, and so should you. At this time, I am honored and delighted to introduce to you a distinguished fellow Barbadian and the Special Advisor to the United Nations Secretary General on Climate Action, Mr. Selwin Hart, to deliver the introductory remarks. Over to you, Mr. Hart.
Thank you so much, Ashley. I hope I can call you Ashley.
Certainly can.
Okay, but thank you so much, and I'm so happy to be, if it's only in cyberspace or virtually, to be virtually back home in beautiful Barbados. And I wish to join you, Ashley, in welcoming the many other, the probably hundreds of young people that have connected to this meeting. And I'm really honored to share this digital stage with young people from the Caribbean and around the world. And I'd like to extend really thanks to you, Ashley, for your leadership, leadership of the Ashley Lashley Foundation and UNICEF as well, but particularly to you, Ashley, for your vision and for the way that you organized this event to include all segments of society, including those that are differently able. You know, this is the type of leadership that the chosen generation, I also call your generation the greatest generation as well. And you know, I really want to thank you for how you've put this together. And this collaboration shows the UN sort of long-standing commitment to work in partnership with youth organizations and to put young people at the top of the global development agenda. Because the reality is decisions that are being taken now will have very little impact on the lifestyle, certainly of my generation, but will have consequential impacts on the lives of your generation. And we also recognize that young people are a powerful agent for change on the most pressing global challenges that we face, including those related to the environment and to climate change. And last year, the UN hosted the first ever UN Youth Global Climate Summit in New York, which provided a platform for young people from around the world to have their voices heard. And it's my understanding that as we approach the COP26 in Glasgow, that Italy, which is also a co-host of COP26, will be convening a youth summit and a series of events over the course of the coming months. And I really encourage you, Ashley, and all of the other colleagues and friends from the Caribbean and from other small island developing states to be intimately involved in those meetings so that the perspective of the Caribbean and other small island developing states can be showcased globally. Now, and UNICEF, in collaboration with Youngo, a coalition of champion governments and other youth partners, have also been doing some important work in this space. And I also wish to acknowledge this. So let me express again the sincere appreciation of the Secretary General for the incredible work of young people, including young people from our region, from my region, in driving the change that we urgently need. And he has been very clear. Young people are leading the way with your energy, ideas, and relentless determination. And we need that. We really need that more than ever now. Governments are in the process of making major decisions. They've mobilized trillions of dollars, and they will make some of the most important decisions ever made in the history of mankind as they recover, address the COVID pandemic, and seek to restore economic growth and create new jobs. And how this recovery is designed and implemented will have a consequential impact on our ability to meet the climate challenge. As the Secretary General said last year, we have we have two choices. Governments can either invest in the past in an unsustainable, polluting, and less inclusive world, or they can invest in the future in a greener, inclusive, and resilient world. And your voice in your countries and globally is needed more than ever as governments make these big decisions in how they respond to the COVID pandemic. And we know that young people and children, they're deeply concerned about the impact of the pandemic. It is having a disproportionate impact on young people in terms of job losses and on disruption to your education and training. And we know that the economic outlook is uncertain. It may be a long time before we recover economically. And this is worrying for many young people as you try to find your first job and to advance your career. And in fact, next week, the Secretary General will be joining in a webinar with the Youth Envoy, UN Youth Envoy, Dr. Tedros of the WHO, World Health Organization, and other guests on young people's mental health during the pandemic. And I hope that you participate and join at that event. But as we look at the pandemic, we're also in a race against climate change. We have a long way to go. And while there has been some progress over the last few years, and much of that progress is owed to the strong leadership and advocacy of young people, we are nowhere close where we need to be. For us to be on the trajectory to limit the increase in global warming to 1.5, global emissions need to be reduced by about 45% in the next decade. And we need to achieve net zero carbon emissions by 2050. This is not an easy task. And as I said, we're not close to achieving this. And this is why your leadership and advocacy is needed more than ever. And this is why, as well, the Secretary General has proposed 6 climate positive actions. I will not repeat them here, which he has proposed to assist governments and to guide governments as they seek to recover from the COVID crisis. I will close by issuing, I don't want to call it a challenge, but identifying 5 areas where I think your voice as young people can be most effective. And believe me, I'm not seeking to lecture to you in any form or fashion, but I really want to have a conversation with you over the course of the next few minutes or so. Firstly, I really hope that you channel your efforts in terms of influencing the recovery from the COVID crisis. It must be a green recovery. Many countries are focused on really short-term fixes. Many of these short-term fixes are not compatible with a climate-secure future. And as young people, I really urge and encourage you to speak up, let your voice be heard as governments make these consequential decisions on climate-related issues. The Secretary General has been clear. Coal has no future in the sustainable recovery. And governments should not be propping up the coal or investing in coal, which, by the way, causes 9 million premature deaths worldwide every year. So please raise your voice on the green recovery plans and measures that your governments will be putting in place. Secondly, I really encourage you to support ambitious climate action. Ensure that your governments are working on enhancing their national determined contributions. It's climate for national climate plans that many of them are working on to submit to COP26 in Paris next year, and ensure that these national climate plans are compatible with the 1.5 degree temperature goal. Third, please continue to support multilateralism and the UN. International cooperation, solidarity and solidarity is needed more than ever. As we've seen from this pandemic, no one country can solve this issue on its own. Similarly, with climate change, we need countries to work better together. We need countries to put aside petty differences and to work closely together for the common global good. Fourth, I want you to continue to be advocates for science. Science must be at the center of decision-making on the COVID crisis as well as the climate crisis. Not political expediency, but science. And science is telling us that we need to be ambitious on climate change. So please continue to advocate for strong science. And finally, promote local action and solutions. Many of the bottom-up solutions that you as young people have proposed or are working on can help us to address the global crisis of climate change. So I really encourage you to continue to work within your communities, like what you're doing, Ashley. Work within your communities and your countries to promote this bottom-up mobilization and action. I'm sorry that I took so long, but I'm really looking forward to engage with you. And again, Ashley, kudos to you. And I'm really proud that you have brought this issue to a global stage as a fellow Barbadian. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Hart, for those most important introductory remarks. I just want to say thank you to you too for accepting our invitation with your prestige globally to come and share your voice and your expertise to not only young persons, but persons in general who really need young advocates in order to get the message of climate action out there. So thank you as a fellow Barbadian for accepting our invitation. At this time, we would move directly into the official video for the Hey campaign, which brings experts and UN officials and youth activists together, presenting strong messages on what is required to tackle climate change and build healthier futures for our children. Some of the speakers who you may see in today's video will also be some of the presenters today. So at this time, we will share with you the For Every Child, there's a healthier and safer future video.
I'm Liz Welcome and I'm 8 years old. I'm from Manipur, India, and I'm a climate activist. I'm coming here to tell to the world leaders that this is the time to take action, and it is a real climate emergency.
My friends, we live on the only planet that is known to support life, this beautiful blue-green Earth. And yet, what a mess we're making of it through climate change, air pollution, and the loss of biological diversity. Hundreds of millions of children today do not have access to clean water. 600,000 children will die this year because of air pollution.
We all have in mind images from devastating wildfires in Australia. Here in the Caribbean, I personally witnessed hurricanes Irma and Maria in 2017. Dorian in the Bahamas in 2019, how challenging it was for children and young people.
In this context, children are a particularly vulnerable population that at the same time have contributed very little to the issue of climate change.
Et oui, ce phénomène menace la santé des hommes et surtout celle des enfants partout dans le monde. L'une des conséquences du changement climatique sur la santé des enfants est l'expansion de certains vecteurs de maladies tels que les moustiques qui causent le paludisme et qui entraînent la mort d'un enfant toutes les 30 secondes en Afrique.
Climate change is causing extreme weather emergencies, which are scary for anyone, but especially for people with disabilities.
At UNICEF, we are committed to protect children and young people's health. All over the world, you come up with creative solutions. Speak up and contribute to building a better future. This is hope.
My advocacy on non-communicable diseases brought about a conscious awakening that climate change and health are inextricably linked.
Las sociedades se han construido pensando en personas adultas y la necesidad de reconstruirlas, incluyendo la niñez, es cada vez más fuerte, sobre todo ante la crisis climática que estamos viviendo.
And also, children, adolescents, and youth must be meaningfully engaged in their response.
We need to be included. We can do this together.
The life of every child born today will be profoundly affected by climate change. But it doesn't have to be that way. That same child born today, if we do it right, they can grow up in a world with cleaner air, with healthier diets, with more livable cities.
By working together, we can achieve a cleaner, greener, healthier, happier future.
And we as youth must realize that our world is not a commodity, but it belongs to all of us. And we must do all that is humanly possible to protect our health and our planet.
So we have a responsibility to take. Climate change is an economic, public health, and environmental issue that we have a moral responsibility to address. We are here!
With the passion and determination of our youth, they will lead the way to a resilient world.
Let's come together to have one voice for climate justice, because any harm done to the environment is harm done to humanity.
I'm here to speak for my generation and all the generations to come. I'm here to speak for the behalf of the starving children around the world who cry and go unheard. From the bottom of my heart, together with the children and youth of the world, I urge you to join your hands, your minds, and your patience to create a better world for all of us. Thank you.
Well, this is my second time seeing that video, and I was certainly moved that so many people came on board so we can promote, so that we could tackle, climate action and seek to build healthier environments for our children and youth. At this time, after seeing that video, we would now participate in an intergenerational discussion with Mr. Selwin Hart to allow young persons to exchange and express their views with him as it relates to the acceleration of climate action and the need to build healthier and safer future. Mr. Hart, our first panelist youth would be Lucy Mir. Lucy, are you available?
Yes.
Okay, over to you, Lucy. You can ask Mr. Hart your question. Your question has to be relatively short.
Okay. Mr. Hart, while climate action is needed by the entire world's population, can you tell us about any special efforts to help protect people with disabilities and other vulnerable groups from the dangerous impact of climate change?
Lucy, thank you. If I may call you Lucy, thank you so much for your great question. And one of the, as I said earlier, the Secretary General has put to global leaders these 6 climate positive actions, which are aimed at helping them to design their recovery plans and strategies. And one of them is protecting the most vulnerable. Climate impacts and climate change has a disproportionate impact on those that have contributed least to this problem of climate change. And the needs of vulnerable people and vulnerable populations, including persons with disabilities and differently able persons, must be placed at the heart of the global response to climate change. And there are a number of specific initiatives in different countries around the world. For example, many countries have incorporated in their national disaster plans and strategies sort of concrete measures and actions aimed at addressing some of the needs and challenges that persons with disabilities face as they respond to as countries face natural disasters. I see this as a concrete action that must be incorporated in every national disaster response and management plan in every country. So this is something that we will continue to advocate for. However, equally important is for persons with disabilities to have a voice when these issues are under discussion. Oftentimes, you don't have that voice, and we really need to find ways of incorporating the voices of persons with disabilities and other vulnerable groups into the discussions as well as decision-making on climate-related issues. And this is something that I would love to discuss with you and other colleagues in terms of how we can provide and amplify your voice in international decision and national decision-making on these important issues.
Thank you.
One more question to you, Mr. Hart, and that will come from one of our Hey ambassadors, Mr. Renako Bailey. Renako, are you on the line?
Yes, I am. My question would be, what are some measures taken to address the potential increase of cost of living costs? Sorry, let me repeat that. What are some of the measures being taken to address the potential increase in cost of living by climate change?
Thank you. Renato, the climate has, when one looks at the cost benefit of climate action, it comes as it is a net positive for peoples and societies, right? The cost of not building resilience to climate change means that somewhere down the road, you will have to pay a much greater cost if you don't build that resilience upfront. So say, for example, I know that in the Caribbean, we are faced with hurricanes and other extreme weather events. It is in everyone's interest to make that initial investment in resilience building very early, means building your homes to withstand a category 4 or 5 hurricane, rather than waiting until a strong hurricane or storm hits and
question for you.
Hello? Rather than waiting on until a storm or hurricane hits and having to pay the cost of rebuilding. So there is a net positive in terms of investing in upfront resilience building. On reducing emissions, the cost of renewable energy has fallen significantly over the course of the last decade or so. And renewable energy in most countries is, quite frankly, a lot cheaper than fossil fuel, than traditional fossil fuels. And renewable energy also delivers more jobs, 3 times. In fact, there's some estimates that show that renewable energy jobs deliver 3 times more than jobs in the fossil fuel industry. So it's in everyone's interest, it's in the interest of all governments to really make those necessary investments in renewable energy. Yes, there will be some upfront costs. And however, there are many new and emerging funds like the Green Climate Fund that is providing or has been providing low-cost finance in support of many of these investments that developing countries will have to make on both resilience and on renewable energy.
Thank you for that comprehensive overview, Mr. Hart. And again, thank you for accepting our invitation to give the introductory remarks for this Global Youth Network Summit on Climate Change and Health.